What up, Screen Fiends? I'm GB, and you're tuned in to Headz TV, where we like to discuss all the wonderful things appearing on your movie and your TV screens. In this episode, I'm going to do my best to explain the Cowboy from Preacher, aka the Saint of Killers. Alright, so after season 1 and the first two awesome episodes of season 2, I know many people have a lot of questions about the Cowboy, the Saint of Killers. They're not understanding who he is or what he is, and where his seemingly insanely strong power comes from. So I'm going to do my best in this video, as quickly as I can, to just burn through the Saint of Killers as an overall character. Now, there will be some spoilers, I'm sure, ahead, especially if you're not caught up to Preacher, and if you're not, shame on you. But I'm not sure if they're going to adapt everything 100% the way it is in the books. So, kind of take it for a grain of salt, but be wary going forward. If you don't want to be spoiled about anything, there may be some mild spoilers about just that character. But I am going to try and keep anything that I think is going to be a spoiler or somewhat of a big spoiler, mystery-ish in this, okay? Alright, so let's get into it. So first, his backstory, which we did get to see in season 1 many times. I'm just going to go over real quick because there's a couple of things people may not have missed, and there's also one or two things that they may have left out on purpose to show us at a later date, or they may have just remixed or changed it up altogether to keep us guessing or to keep the story a little bit tighter, seeing as how he's not really our main character. So, alright, let's go ahead. Let me stop rambling along. Alright. So, he was a feared Confederate soldier. He was known to be one of the most violent, the most bloodthirsty soldiers. Killing indiscriminately and seeming to enjoy it. And he was extremely good at it. So, a talented soldier. I guess in today's terms, he probably would have been some sort of special ops character. And now, this is before he gets any sort of powers or anything. He's just a regular cowboy, but, a regular Confederate soldier at this time. Soon to be a cowboy. But he's just extremely skilled. Now, they actually modeled the character in the books off of Lee Marvin, who's a big Western guy. Look him up. I believe he was in Magnificent Seven, which is what most people would remember him from. But he's in a ton of Westerns. And Clint Eastwood, as far as his demeanor, the cowboy. So if you look at those two actors and their body of work in the Western genre, and then you even watch the way he's portrayed on TV, not just reading him, but just watch the way Graham McTavish, he's the actor who plays him on the show, the way he portrays him, you get a little bit of that, or a lot of bit of those two characters in there. Not in his looks so much, but just in his portrayal of the character. He actually looks a lot like Clint Eastwood, in my opinion, in the book. Okay, we don't see this, but I imagine that this is still part of his backstory, even if they don't tell us. So, after slaughtering a bunch of Apaches, this is after the war, when now I guess he's just like a cowboy, mercenary, whatever. He saves a young girl, and this is the girl who ends up being his wife, who we see in season 1. She's a child when he meets her, but she tags along with him for 10 years or whatever. They fall in love, they get married, they eventually have a daughter. I think altogether they're together for 15 years or something like that. And this ends up being the best time of his life. In a life full of misery and full of bad things that he's done and that have been done to him, this is the only good time of his life. This is his golden years. He's kind of changing as a person, where he's realizing now that life isn't all about murder, death, and killing, or hunting people down, or whatever it is he was doing prior to being a family man. So this is really a changing, profound moment for him in his life. And then, of course, terrible things happen because, who really usually gets a happy ending? And his wife and daughter, they get sick. But there is a medicine. It's just that it's a week away in a town called Ratwater, which is a lot of allusions to in the first season. The town that Jesse lives in is not called Ratwater. It's called, I believe, Anvil. But you see the tree where all of the dead Native Americans are hanging in that town. They're drinking a whiskey that's called rat water. So I imagine that was where rat water was. It was that town. And I like that, nice tying together with those characters, the antagonist, the protagonist, all that stuff. All right, he leaves the town after getting the medicine, after witnessing some terrible things with some seemingly good people, children included, women and children included. And, he had left his gun behind when he went out to get the medicine. But because he just can't, now that he's like changing and he's a family man and he understands what it means to have kids and how important kids are and how vulnerable they are, he goes back to the town even though he has no gun. And he tries to save the innocent people who are being harmed. But of course, he fails. He's beaten by a bunch of outlaws and this corrupt preacher who we see doesn't act anything like a preacher. But this goes to sow in his hatred for preachers in general because he's already been done wrong by a preacher in the past, right? So he knows that all preachers aren't good. Maybe he feels that none of them are good. Who knows? Now, after being attacked by all of them and they kill his horse and all that, he gets heavily delayed in bringing back the medicine. So by the time he gets back to the cabin, the wife and daughter are dead. So then he returns to Ratwater. He kills everybody in the bar that he was beaten in. Now, this is a possible spoiler here. He even kills the people not responsible, by the way. He kills the prostitutes, the musicians, the bartender. He kills everybody in the bar, all the patrons. Not just the outlaws that beat him. Not just the preacher, seemingly the preacher, that killed his horse and kind of started the whole problem, right? So he kills everybody indiscriminately. Now, this could be a possible spoiler. They may do this on the show. They may not. They may just leave the story where it was. But in the book, he fails to kill the preacher. And then I would assume it's when he's standing there having that drink. I don't really recall from the book. I did read it not too long ago either, but I'm just not remembering exactly how it goes down. But I do know that the preacher stabs him with I believe it's a shovel, like through the chest or through the front. I think it's through the back of the chest. That's how the cowboy dies. Now, we don't see that on the show, how the cowboy dies. We just kind of see him in hell reliving his past doings. So maybe they're going to still show that part of his flashback. I do see that this show, it seems like anyway from season 1, will have the occasional flashback here and there, even for the characters that don't seem so major. So maybe we'll still get to see that. That's why I said possible spoiler. Now, because of these terrible doings, he's sent to hell, where he basically relives his worst moments. So it's like when you get sent to hell in this world of Preacher, you get sent to your own personal hell, where you relive the worst moments or the worst moment or the moment that sent you to hell. And he'll be reliving it over and over for eternity. Now I'm going to get to his time in hell. And this may be different. It may be possible spoilers. They may leave all of this stuff out altogether. I don't see them doing it because it's some really cool stuff. And if, they can do it budget-wise, if they do it, the right way. You can definitely do this on a budget, but they may not. So once again, take this part with a grain of salt. This is how it goes down in the comics, but I'm still going to leave out a lot of the major events just so I don't spoil anything really, really big and really juicy. I just kind of want to explain this particular character. Now, reliving these moments, of your worst days or your worst acts or whatever sent you to hell, however it really is conformed. I don't really think it's explained totally, but it's your own personal hell, right? So the purpose of this is meant to torture you and basically torture and drain the emotions out of you, the love, the hate, the sadness, all of your emotions, and just make you a void of emotions. But the cowboy's hatred is so strong because in the comics, maybe different in the show, but his hatred is so strong because he didn't really complete his vengeance. He didn't kill the actual preacher who did him wrong, and I believe there's 1 or 2 outlaws that lived from the gunshot wounds that he gave them. So, he didn't kill everybody in the bar, just the majority of the people, most of them. I believe actually all but 2 in the books. So that's why his hatred is so strong, and it can't be contained. It can't be taken away from him. He can't let go of that hatred because he was never able to obtain complete vengeance for his actions. His hatred's so strong and so cold, he actually freezes hell over, which pisses the devil off to no end. And the devil takes it upon himself to try and personally torture the hatred out of the cowboy, right? And he fails. The hatred still remains in the cowboy. And think about how angry this makes the devil, of all people, the ruler of hell. How upset this makes him that even personally he can't rid him of his hatred. I think that's great, and it just adds so much depth to that character. Kind of makes him sympathetic, you know, that he went through all this torture and hell and still can't let go of that hatred and that anger. Now, this impresses the Angel of Death, another actual character in the series. There's a lot of, like, you know, trippy stuff that goes on later on in the series. I really hope they do that stuff on the show. And honestly, it looks like they're not going to be scared to do it. They're just going to need to find a way to do it within constraints of a television budget. Even, you know, well, AMC is kind of cheap usually with their shows. So, but I think they're going to get to this stuff. I really do. Maybe not all of it. And they may change it, like I said. Alright, sorry. So this impresses the Angel of Death so much that he makes a deal with him that if the cowboy becomes the Saint of Killers, basically takes over for the Angel of Death, right? And he has to kill at God's will. So whoever God wants to send him back to Earth to kill, he's got to do it no matter what, and he can't stop until the job is done. Then the Angel of Death would allow him to go back to Earth and finish his vengeance, finish seeking out his vengeance and killing this priest and the whatever outlaws remained or whoever was left standing from that bar shootout. He does this. So, but instead of just killing the guilty parties, he kills everybody in Ratwater. Every man, every woman, every child. He wipes out Ratwater. Now, he has new weapons at this time, which help him in destroying the town. He basically turns the town to rubble, which kind of lends to, well, what I just said earlier about how I feel Anvil was just built on top of what used to be Ratwater. So now, because of this heinous act, because he has all this power now, which I'll get to his power and stuff in 1 minute, maybe actually in part 2. Yeah, I'm going to stop this right after this, and I'm going to do a part 2 video where I explain the rest of it. Because of this heinous act, and because he has so much power now given to him by the Angel of Death, that he basically scares the shit out of heaven and God, and God sends him back to his own personal hell to live out his days there until God needs him for whatever what he needs him for. All right, that's gonna be it for part 1. It was already longer than I wanted it to do. I'm gonna do a part 2, which will be probably a lot shorter, right following this one. So, of course, if you like this video, tune in for that one. Look out for that. And also, don't forget to leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about the Saint of Killers. If I left something out, if I got something wrong, beat me up about it, whatever. I like to engage with the viewers. So I love to have these discussions, and I'm usually pretty quick with getting back to my comments. Usually. Alright, so yeah, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Always appreciate it. Don't forget to check out part 2. And, yep, I will see you next time. You guys have a great night. I got that backwards. I usually say you guys have a great night. I'll see you next time.